The alarm bells are ringing louder than ever. Just months into power, Keir Starmer faces a nation on the brink. The numbers tell a chilling story. Over 35,000 illegal migrants crossed the Channel in small boats this year alone. On Christmas Day and Boxing Day, 858 people landed on British shores while families celebrated. The streets that erupted in violence last summer still simmer with tension, and now Starmer scrambles desperately to control a crisis that threatens to engulf his entire government. Is Britain unravelling before our eyes? Immigration, crime, trust, three pillars of a stable society, all crumbling simultaneously under Labour's watch. Let's dig into the terrifying reality that has Britain on edge. Reason number 1, the summer that shook the nation. The wounds are still fresh. Between July 30th and August 5th, 2024, Britain witnessed its worst social unrest since 2011. Over 1,280 people arrested, nearly 800 charged. The spark? A horrific knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport, where 3 innocent children were murdered. But the explosion that followed revealed something far deeper, something Starmer still refuses to acknowledge. Within hours of the tragedy, false claims spread like wildfire across social media. The suspected attacker was labelled a Muslim asylum seeker. Tech platforms, particularly X under Elon Musk's ownership, became breeding grounds for misinformation. A neo-Nazi from Finland named Charles Emmanuel Mikko Räsänen set up a Telegram channel called Southport Wake Up within hours of the stabbing. It amassed 15,000 members. He shared instructions on how to commit arson with UK rioters. This is the new face of organised chaos in Britain. Hotels housing asylum seekers were set ablaze. In Rotherham and Tamworth, rioters smashed windows, threw projectiles and started fires. Mosques were attacked. Nazi salutes were seen in the streets. And what did Starmer do? He condemned far-right thuggery and promised swift justice. Over 177 people were imprisoned within days, some receiving sentences of up to 9 years. The courts worked overtime. The police deployed over 40,000 shifts in specialist public order operations. But here's what Starmer won't tell you. When he visited Southport the day after the attack, he was met with hostile shouts. "How many more, Starmer? When are you going to do something?" a voice cried out. The people saw through his empty words even then. And the sentencing that followed. Peter Lynch, a 61-year-old man who held a placard during protests, was jailed for verbal abuse toward police. 2 months into his sentence, he hanged himself at HMP Moorland. Critics called it political persecution. The government called it justice. Fast forward to December. The social media accounts that fueled those riots remain active. The underlying tensions remain unresolved. Starmer's solution? More censorship, more surveillance, more control. And Britain remains on edge, waiting for the next spark. Reason number 2, the border security illusion. Starmer promised to smash the gangs. His government scrapped the Rwanda scheme within hours of taking power, calling it an expensive gimmick. Instead, they created the Border Security Command, backed by £150 million. They hired Martin Hewitt as Border Security Commander. They signed security agreements with Iraq and Western Balkan countries. They deployed over 100 additional prosecutors. They introduced legislation with counter-terrorism-style powers to combat smuggling gangs. And what are the results? Catastrophic failure on every measurable level. Since the July election, over 22,000 migrants have crossed the Channel illegally. That's a 24% increase compared to the same period in 2023. On Christmas Day alone, 451 people crossed. On Boxing Day, another 407 arrived. While British families opened presents, criminal gangs pocketed millions and laughed at Starmer's tough measures. The total number of illegal arrivals since 2018 has now surpassed 150,000 people. That's more than the entire population of York. The math is staggering and simple. Over 37,000 crossed in 2024, a 25% increase from 2023. In 2024, 73 people died attempting the crossing, more than all previous years combined. These deaths happened under Starmer's watch. The gangs he promised to destroy, they're thriving. The price of a Channel crossing has plummeted from €14,000 in 2018 to under €4,000 in 2024. The route has never been more accessible, more profitable, or more deadly. And where do these arrivals go? Into hotels, into communities already stretched to breaking point. The asylum system backlog stands at 97,000 applications as of September. The National Audit Office estimates the asylum system will cost over £15 billion over 10 years. That's your money, your children's futures, being burned to house people who entered Britain illegally. Starmer claims weather is to blame for increased crossings. He points to unusually calm conditions in the second half of the year. But the opposition sees through this excuse. When you promise to smash the gangs and instead the gangs grow stronger, you cannot blame the weather. You failed. Reason number 3, the knife crime epidemic. Britain can't escape. The statistics cut deep, literally and figuratively. In the year ending December 2024, police recorded approximately 54,587 knife-enabled offences. That's a 2% increase from the previous year. Nearly 50,000 serious knife crimes were recorded in England from July 2023 to June 2024. London alone recorded 15,859 incidents, giving it the highest rate of serious knife crimes at 17.89 offences per 10,000 people. Let's put this in human terms. Every single day in Britain, someone is stabbed. Every single week, families are destroyed. In 2024, 262 homicides involved sharp instruments. Knives are used in 49% of attempted murders, 40% of successful homicides, and 28% of robberies. Kitchen knives and daggers account for the majority of attacks. The victims, disproportionately young people. In 2024, 57 people under the age of 25 were killed in knife attacks. In 2022 to 2023, 42 people aged 16 to 19 were murdered with blades. The geographic spread tells a damning story of decline. Knife crime rates are now over a fifth higher than they were a decade ago. Areas that previously had lower rates, especially in northern and southeastern England, now exhibit significantly higher rates. West Yorkshire, Merseyside and Cleveland all exceed 100 reported offences per 100,000 people, nearly double the offences recorded in 2012. This is not a London problem anymore, it's a national crisis. NHS hospitals recorded 3,500 admissions due to assault by a sharp object in 2024 and 2025, but these are only the reported cases. Many attacks go unreported, victims too terrified to come forward or communities too fractured to trust the police. And what is Starmer's response? He promises to put 13,000 more police officers on the streets, but the people have heard these promises before. The Conservatives made similar pledges for 14 years while knife crime soared. Labour offers no new ideas, no radical solutions. Just more of the same failing strategy while young blood spills on British streets. Reason number 4, the two-tier policing scandal that destroys trust. This is where public trust collapses entirely. During the summer riots, a term exploded across social media and into mainstream discourse: two-tier policing. The accusation that police deliberately favour minorities and are harsher in their treatment of white protesters and right-wing demonstrators. Research into social media responses during the 2024 riots reveals a shocking reality. Users responding to police accounts on X had overwhelmingly right-wing political, social and cultural views. They described protesters and rioters as largely peaceful, ordinary British citizens, while criticising police for tyranny and being out of touch with white British people, particularly the working class. These weren't fringe voices. These were thousands of ordinary Britons who felt the police had turned their backs on them. The perception has devastating consequences. When citizens believe the law protects some but not others, the social contract shatters. The government denies any evidence of two-tier policing exists. But perception matters more than official denials. The court of public opinion has already delivered its verdict. Consider the contrast. Pro-Palestine demonstrations in 2023 and 2024 proceeded with minimal police intervention, despite blocking major roads and aggressive rhetoric. Meanwhile, Peter Lynch held a placard and received a custodial sentence that ended in his death. The sentencing following the summer riots was swift and severe. People received years in prison for social media posts deemed to incite racial hatred. Some were jailed for being present at riots, even without committing violence. The police now spend more time monitoring social media for hate speech than solving burglaries. In London, a smartphone is stolen every 3 minutes. The police openly admit that investigating these crimes is often fruitless. Yet they have resources to knock on doors for non-crime hate incidents when someone posts something controversial online. This is Starmer's Britain, where speaking your mind can land you in prison faster than stealing a phone. Reason number 5, the economic betrayal drowning working Britain. Public opinion polls paint a devastating picture of Starmer's government. After a landslide victory in July 2024, where Labour won 411 seats, the honeymoon lasted approximately 5 minutes. By December, his government's approval ratings had plummeted. The budget crisis exposed the lies. Labour campaigned on a promise not to raise taxes on working people. Then Chancellor Rachel Reeves delivered £26 billion in tax hikes. The government claims they inherited public finances in total crisis from the Conservatives. But many see this as an excuse to break promises made just months earlier. Opposition MPs accused Reeves of misleading the public about the state of finances before the budget. The government denies it. The public doesn't believe them. The Plan for Change speech in early December was seen by many as an emergency reset rather than confident governance. Starmer doubled down on his 5 missions for government, but added new milestones that critics called lowering the bar. Building 1.5 million homes by the end of Parliament. The construction sector calls it hugely ambitious, code for impossible. Achieving the highest growth in the G7. The time frame for achieving it in this Parliament was quietly dropped, and all of this happens while millionaires flee Britain in record numbers. In 2024, 9,500 millionaires abandoned the UK. That's second only to authoritarian China for wealth exodus globally. Starmer's abolition of non-dom status and brutal 20% VAT on private schools sent a clear signal to investors: you are not welcome here. When a millionaire leaves for Dubai or Switzerland, they don't just take their savings, they take their businesses, their investments and their consumption taxes with them. The Adam Smith Institute warns this policy could cost the Treasury a staggering £1 billion a year. But Starmer plays Robin Hood, punishing wealth creators while the economy stagnates. Meanwhile, ordinary working people watch their cost of living crisis deepen while the government tells them recovery is coming. Just wait, just trust us, just give us more time. The logic is brutal and simple. You cannot tax people who are no longer there. While London tightens the screws, competitors are rolling out red carpets with tax breaks. Dubai beckons, Singapore smiles, Switzerland welcomes, and Britain watches its tax base evaporate while Starmer lectures about fairness. This politics of envy doesn't punish the rich. They have private jets and can leave tomorrow. It punishes the middle class who are left behind to pick up the tab for a shrinking tax base and a fleeing economy. Reason number 6, the breaking point Britain cannot avoid. So here we stand. December 2024, a nation on edge. The summer riots revealed deep fissures in British society that Starmer papered over with mass arrests and harsh sentences. The border security failure shows a government unable to control its own sovereignty, with criminal gangs laughing as they process record numbers across the Channel. The knife crime epidemic demonstrates the breakdown of safety in communities across the nation, with 57 young lives lost this year alone, and families too terrified to let children play outside. The perception of two-tier policing destroys trust in institutions, with thousands of ordinary Britons convinced the law no longer protects them equally. And the economic policies drive wealth and opportunity away from British shores, while working families watch their tax burden explode. Starmer scrambles from crisis to crisis, offering speeches and task forces and new legislation. But the British people see through the smoke. They lived through 14 years of Conservative failure, only to discover Labour offers more of the same wrapped in different rhetoric. The question now is simple and terrifying. What happens next? When over 150,000 illegal migrants have entered Britain in 7 years, and the gangs grow stronger every day, what's the breaking point? When knife crime claims another 57 young lives and the government offers only statistics and promises, when does the patience run out? When police are seen as protecting some communities while policing others harshly, when does that powder keg explode again? Starmer promised change, he promised competence, he promised a government of service. But Britain is on edge, and the streets that erupted last summer could erupt again. The warning signs are everywhere. The social media channels that organised violence remain active. The underlying tensions that drove thousands to riot remain unaddressed. The perception that the government serves everyone except native Britons continues to grow. This isn't about left versus right anymore. This is about a nation watching its social fabric tear apart in real time. This is about communities that no longer recognise their own streets. This is about parents terrified to let their children out after dark. This is about workers watching their taxes fund a system that seems designed against them. And Starmer, he scrambles, he reacts, he promises, but he does not lead, he does not inspire, he does not deliver the change Britain desperately needs. Instead, he manages decline while calling it progress. The government tells you the economy is recovering, but your energy bills tell a different story. The government tells you crime is being tackled, but the knife crime statistics climbing year after year tell a different story. The government tells you the borders are being secured, but 858 people landing on Christmas Day and Boxing Day tell a different story. The government tells you they're listening to working people, but £26 billion in tax hikes and 9,500 millionaires fleeing tell a different story. So the question returns to you. When you look at the small boats landing on Christmas Day, the knife crime statistics climbing relentlessly, the police knocking on doors for social media posts, while burglars roam free, the millionaires fleeing to safer shores, what do you see? Do you see a government in control, or a nation spiraling toward chaos? Do you see leadership or desperate scrambling? Do you see hope for tomorrow or the frightening certainty that Britain's best days lie behind it? The streets erupted once this summer. The riots were contained, the rioters imprisoned, the social media posts deleted. But the causes, still there. The grievances, still growing. The anger, still building. Britain is on edge, and Keir Starmer scrambles while the clock ticks down to the next explosion. This is not a warning, this is a reality check. The question is not if the streets will erupt again, the question is when, and whether anyone in power will finally have the courage to address the root causes instead of just punishing the symptoms. The choice is yours. Stay informed, stay aware, because what happens next in Britain will determine not just the fate of one government, but the future of an entire nation standing on the edge of something dark and uncertain.